Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's edition of the Daily Stand-Up. My name's Lee Henson, president and founder of AgileDad. Without any further ado, let's get started. This week, we're focusing our attention on the role of a ScrumMaster and on some of the nuances of being a ScrumMaster. So I thought we'd continue today with a topic that is really close to me because I've seen this happen more than once. I was in a very, very, very successful oil and gas business and industry, and I was meeting with some of their executive team. And I remember pretty implicitly that we were having some issues with getting all the work delivered that was being promised or that was being asked for. And the leadership team really wanted to continue to provide, world-class service to the people, and they wanted to continue to watch the price of oil and gas do well, and they wanted to, continue to grow and expand their business and their offerings. And I specifically remember teams coming to me saying, "We are just drained. We are wiped. There's no way you can squeeze any more blood from this turnip. We are done. We are out like an 8-track tape. We are out like a bad knee. We are just finished." And out like a hip replacement. And I'm just like, man, this is terrible. So how do you get to the point where, your teams don't feel that level of stress and that level of burden? So I took it upon myself to go meet with the leadership group. I tried this at lower levels and without much success. So as an Agile coach, I took it upon myself, especially one who's dealt with many executives, to meet with the executive suite. And I think that day will be ingrained in my mind forever because I'll never forget what their answer was. They said, "Lee, do you know what we do?" And I said, "Yeah." And I explained what they do. And they said, they said, "We are known all over the world for the way that we produce." And, they gave me the whole spiel. And, without acting unimpressed, these are all factual pieces that I already knew. So I'm like, okay, I think I see where you're going with this. But, on the outside, I was impressed. And they said, in order to solve this problem, they said, we have more money than you could ever dream of. If we dropped $100,000 on the ground, it wouldn't be worth our time to stop and pick it up because we'd make more money by pressing forward. And to myself, I thought, well, congratulations on your success. It just didn't sound right. But then came this line. If you need to get more work done, just bring on more people. I don't care how many more teams you have to hire, how many more people you have to hire. Just bring in more people. If you bring in more people, the job will always be done faster. And this is where my head hung in shame, because I knew that statement couldn't be any further from the truth. I looked back at this gentleman and I said, that's probably the best advice I've ever received. I'm going to take that to heart, especially, and apply it both in my professional and personal life. At the time, my wife was expecting, so I explained that to him, and I said, "I'm so excited." I said, "I think what I'm going to do is invite 9 of her pregnant friends over so that she can have the baby in a month." And I know what you're thinking. Impossible, right? And, not funny. But it was funny, and it still is funny at the time. And I think that made him a little frustrated. But the point that I was trying to make is that oftentimes when we just throw more people at something, it could even overcomplicate the situation and make it worse for the people who are on the ground doing the work. Many times people who are on the ground, the last thing they need is someone to train or someone to bring up to speed, or especially teams to bring up to speed. This could hinder even the highest performing team and cause them to reduce to even average or below average, when it comes to what they can deliver. This concept, this theory, this whole story that we just told, it can all be encapsulated in a topic called the Mythical Man Month. And basically this comes from, what value are you going to get if you're constantly throwing more people at something to solve a problem? And if there's anything that we learned from coaching in 44 to Fortune 100 companies, if there's anything that we took away, if there's anything that we could reshare and, change in these companies right when we get there, I think the key would be to let them know that it's always better to organize work so that people can swarm and achieve the work than it is to constantly organize and add people. The concept of limiting work in progress really does work. No pun intended there. It's a matter of scoping back or scaling back. I heard another Scrum trainer, another world-class trainer and coach, who said that right now, while everyone else is teaching scaling methodologies and scaling frameworks and scaling techniques, that he was spending a lot of time teaching descaling, how to unscale and how to get back to where you could, really focus on limiting your whip. And I couldn't help but be impressed. If you're taking the time to limit your work in progress and you're really, doing all you can to focus your attention on better organizing the actual work that's going to be completed. If you're organizing your backlogs and spending time with the product owner to better help them facilitate the creation and maintenance of a well-defined backlog, what you're going to quickly discover is that the team will be happier because the work will be better organized. It'll have more clear acceptance criteria, and people will be able to swarm and do the work. Now, is there ever a cap on how many people? You bet. Sometimes when you just have too many people attacking work, you have people stepping on each other's toes, and you have situations where people just aren't able to complete what they believe they can complete in a timely fashion. I believe it's a long time that we take an opportunity to reassess and ask ourselves, sometimes is the answer taking the work and making it less cryptic or making it more clear? Sometimes is the answer planning a little further ahead and really taking the backlog and organizing it in such a way that you have more work available so that a greater number of teams can swarm? Or are you in a situation where you already have too many cooks in the kitchen and you've got so many really highly qualified, skilled people who are all stepping on each other's toes because the work either isn't prepared in a way that's easy to consume, or the work's just not plentiful enough for them to be able to do it without creating an unlimited number of dependencies? It's true that while organizations should focus on creating the best products or services, they should also be focused on outcome, as we've often discussed here at this channel. If you lead with focusing on outcome and making sure that you have happy consumers with as little output as possible, this is going to give you an opportunity to really take the work and hone it down to a point where the teams feel comfortable with the amount of work that's inside of the flow. And you can look from the outside, take a step back and look from the outside and see how that work is being processed. And that's going to allow you to see whether you need to take further actions to limit the scope that's in progress at any given time, or if you're in a good situation where you can even expand the scope and spread your teams a little thinner in order to make sure they're applying things. The key here is that no one team should be spread so thin that key individuals are only working a percentage on each different project or product that's in flow. So if you have a star individual or key performer and you find that they're working 30% here, 20% here, 50% here, 80% here, because someone added that up and equals 100% of their time, you are going to fall victim to the Mythical Man Month and face the consequences of leaders who are going to try to push for you to add more people or add more qualified people or make sure the most qualified people get the work. And what you're going to find is you're going to be spending a whole lot more time trying to organize people as a Scrum Master than you ever would trying to help the teams be successful to deliver a high quality product or service that makes the end consumer happy. So I hope that you learned something here that's going to help you really accelerate as a Scrum Master and help you recognize and do things better. As always, there's tons of information on the AgileDad website regarding this topic and many others, and we are still looking for your ideas. We want to do all next week with submissions from you of topics that you want to talk about on episodes of the Daily Stand-Up. So if you have any of those, feel free to send those to learnmore@agiledad.com. Just make sure in the subject line you put webinar episode topic or webinar. How about you put in a topic, podcast episode? That sounds better. If you have a webinar topic, we'd love to cover that too. But we want to make sure we focus on podcast episodes for this session. So on behalf of the team at AgileDad, stay healthy, stay well, stay agile. Until next time, my friends, do take care.